Hello, so in this video I'm going to talk about how to solving with the exponent. So first we have a odd root property. That means if a to the n equals to b, then a is equals to nth root of b if when n is an odd number. Okay, so for example, I have x to the fifth power equals to 13.2. So now I take fifth root on both sides. I will have x equals to 2. That works for all of the odd number. That is because results from think about that. If I have a negative number, such as negative 2, times negative 2 times negative 2, and multiply 3 times, you end up to have a negative number, because in that case, the roots, if you take an nth root on both sides, the negative sign or the positive sign should remain the same, because if it's nth root, the sign would not change. But however, if you see some even number, even power, I should say, and then I have a negative 2 times negative 2 4 times, and then you will end up with a positive number. So that means if I tell you that x to the fourth equals to 8, you might end up with two possibilities. Either x could equal to a positive number, or x could be a negative number, because 2's fourth power is equal to 8. Negative 2 to the fourth power also equals to positive 8. I'm sorry, it's positive. So that means when you're trying to take the root of a even number, you need to be careful about the sign. For odd number, we don't need to worry about that because the sign will remain the same. In that case, we will have a even root property. So if a to the n equals to b, then a will end up with two possibilities, positive or negative nth root of b, when n is even. Okay, so now let's take a look. If I got a equation like 2x plus 4 squared equals to 13.6. Now we need to use the even root property because this is a square. You want to take the root on both sides, you will end up to have a two possibility, like what I showed here earlier. Now let's take the root on both sides. We will have square root of 2x plus 4 squared equals to positive or negative square root of 13.6. If you're still confused, you can just simplify as, like say, y squared is equal to 13.6. Now when I'm removing the square, taking the root on both sides, you need to think about, okay, y could be a positive 6 because positive 6 squared equals to 13.6. There's another possibility is y equals to negative 6. If you think about that way, that you will be better understanding why there's a positive and negative answer. Okay, so square root and square, they cancel. So I have 2x plus 4 equals to positive or negative 6. So you will end up to have a two answer. Either 2x plus 4 equals to positive 6, or 2x plus 4 equals to negative 6. Now, we can solve for x by subtracting 4 on both sides. So the 2x equals to 2, or 2x equals to negative 10. Now divided by 2, I have x equals to 1 or x equals to negative 5. So here is the solution. We will end up with two solutions. That's very important. So for odd root property, you will end up to have one solution because the sign they align. But for even root property, by even root property, you will end up to have two solutions, a positive one or negative one. So that means, when you're solving the equation, you will have two solutions. Okay, now here I'm going to show another examples. For example, I have 6x minus 9 squared equals to 14.5. Now, this is square. We need to take square root on both sides. Since square is an even number, so you would want to have a positive and negative answer. So when we take in a 6x minus 9 and square root of 49, 49, not 14, 14.5, not 49. All right, so the square root, I can cancel it out. I got 6x minus 9 on the left side of the equation. Now I need to simplify the roots. Remember how to simplify the root? You need to think about how do you factor 49 so that one of the factor will contain. Now we need to simplify the radical. We can think about 9 times 5. Because 9 is a perfect square number, so that we will get a 3. So I have positive square root of 3 times, square root of 9, I shouldn't skip, times square root of 5. So I have 6x minus 9 equals to positive or negative 3 times square root of 5. Now I can solve for x by adding 9 on both sides. I have 6x equals to positive 3 times square root of 5, adding 9, or 6x equals to negative 3 times square root of 5, adding 9, and then divided by 6 on both sides. Now I will have x equals to, simplify it, square root of 5 half at 3 half, because they can both divide it by 3, or x equals to negative square root of 5 over 2 plus 3 over f2. Okay. Let me show you another example, such as if we have an odd power. So in this one, I have x plus 4 to the cubic root minus 6 equals to 119. So the first thing is, when you see some cubic root, I will go, cubic power, you will want to use a cubic root to cancel out the cubic power. But the first step is not taking the cubic root, is to isolate the part with exponent first. When I isolate it, I need to add 6 on both sides. Now I got x plus 4 to the cubic power equals to 125. Now, since this is an odd number, so when we take in the cubic root, we will end up with just have one answer. So by using the odd root property, so I have a cubic root, x plus 4 to the cubic equals to cubic root 125. You don't have a positive and negative because the cubic power or the cubic root, they will align with the sign, unlike the even power. Okay, so now after I simplify, I have x plus 4 equals to square root of cubic root of 125 is equal to 5, so x is equal to 1. That will be our solution. Here is another example. 6x plus 1 squared plus 6 equals to 10. Okay, always the first step is either isolated exponent or the radicals, like what we do in the last videos. Isolate the exponents. By doing that, I need to subtract 6 on both sides. I have 6x plus 1 squared equals to 4. And now you can take the even root, which is square root on both sides. When you're taking the square root on both sides, we need to be careful because you will end up to have two equations or end up to have two solutions. All right, square root both sides. I will have a positive and negative square root of 4. To avoid the sign errors, it's better for you to write a 2 equation. So now I have either 6x plus 1 equals to 2 or 6x plus 1 equals to negative 2. Now I can solve for x. From the first one, our x subtract 1 over 6x equals to 1, so x is equal to 1/6. On the other one, so x is equal to negative 1/2. So you end up with 2 solutions. So that's why it's important to isolate the root, separate into 2 functions. Because as you can see at the end of the answer, this is not just simply positive and negative 1/6. The positive and negative only happens when you take in the square root. During the later calculation, you will end up to have a different solution. All right, so what if your exponent is something look like a fraction? So here is an example. If I see something like 4x plus 1 raised to the 2/5 power equals to 9. So in order to do that, first of all, you want to write the exponent as a radical expression. To do that, we can write it as 4x plus 1 equals to 2 times 1/5 equals to 9. Or you can do the other way, 1/5 times 2. Either way works. All right, so if it's 1/5, that means this is going to be a 5th root of x plus 1. After that, you will have a square. All right, so to clear the exponent, the first thing is you can take square root on both sides. Remember that when you square root both sides, you will have a positive and negative answer. Okay, so I have 4x plus 1 5th root equals to positive and negative square root of 9. Which is a 3. Now, remember that you will have 2 answers. If you want to try to avoid the sign error, you need to write it into 2 equations. So a 5th root of 4x plus 1 equals to positive 3, or 5th root of 4x plus 1 equals to negative 3. So now I need to raise that to the 5th power on both sides. So this one, put the parentheses so you will not forget the negative sign. So I end up to 4x plus 1 equals to 3 to the 5th power is equals to 214.3. Or 4x plus 1 equals to negative 214.3. Now I can solve the x. Either x equals to 121 over 2 or x equals to negative 61. You can solve it by yourself. I'm going to skip in the steps because I would like to use that time to show more example on how to do the fractional exponent. So I have 3x minus 2, 3 to the 4th equals to 64. Now, again, we want to rewrite the radical. We want to write it as a radical expression. So I will either have 3x minus 2 equals, and then we write it as fourth root, and then raised to the third power. Okay, so to clear the exponent, the first is you want to use the odd root property. So you take a cubic root on both sides. Since it's a cubic root, that means it's an odd number, so we only have one solution. There's no positive or negative. So when you take in the cubic root, I will have fourth root 3x minus 2 equals to cubic root of 64. Cubic root of 64 is equal to 4. I'm going to write it as 4. Okay. Let's not skip that in case. Now, after you take the cubic root, the next step you want to do is you want to raise that to the fourth power on both sides so that I can get rid of the fourth root. So this is 3x minus 2 equals to 4 to the fourth power is 256. Now I can solve for x. You can just use a regular way to solve for x. So x is equal to 86. Okay, so that's it to solving an exponents function. So, two things. We always want to isolate the part that with exponent first. If you see something that with fraction, your goal is to rewrite these fraction into a radical expressions, and then we can either take the root property or raise the power to get rid of the roots and the exponents.